This is Ed Robinson of Kensington College, continuing our lessons on C#. In particular, we'll talk now about Windows Forms. A form is more or less an interface for our code that we can just, for example, here's an example of a form whereby we're going to click on a button. It's going to produce some text on the form. We'll start off by making a new project, file new project, and then we can choose in this case, they might be in different versions, they might appear differently, but in this case we're going to Windows Forms app, and we'll just call that my project for want of a better name, and then click OK, and that should now produce our rudimentary form. Now we'll place some controls on the form in particular. Now I'm looking at the toolbox here. You might need to go to View and Toolbox to make this appear. And sometimes it's tucked away over here as well, so we can take a look. And I want a label, so if I choose a label, then I simply click and drag that label on there. And then also I need to go back to my toolbox and get a button, so I can grab that button here. Then I can double click on that to open up the event of the button one click. That's the name that I've been allocated to my button. I could have changed that. Click is what I'm going to do to it, and this is obviously an event with an underscore meaning event, so that means that when I actually will run it and click on the button, this will cause what we would say is a callback from the form into our code by means of this event. And so I can place some code in here to do something. If I take a look at the name of the label, go back to my form and just check that it is called label 1. That is the name of the label here. I could change that, but I won't bother. I'll keep the default. So back to my code, if I just double click on that, and I want to put some code in here. Okay, so I'll take some, since it's called label 1 is the name that I know, I'm just going to therefore say label 1 and use the text property. If you just press a full stop after that, you should get all the properties and methods that you can use, and one of them being the text property. So you put T there to start giving you the text property. So we've got label 1 full stop text, and we want to put that text in there. So if I simply, well, I could build it, I probably don't need to do that, and then I can just run my program, and by clicking the button up the top here, and when I run it, my form should appear, and then I can simply click on the button, and you'll notice this text here, label 1, changes to hello world. So that's the simplest type of forms program that we can devise, really. You'll notice quite a few files over here. This is the one that we're concerned with. This is more or less where we'll be putting our code. You might like to take a look at the other ones. These are Windows generated. For example, if I look at this one over here, the program CS, that basically just gets the form up and running. And then you've got the designer Windows generated code here. If I expand that, you'll see that this is the code which has been produced by when we've dragged a label onto the form and dragged our button onto the form. This is generated automatically for us by Windows. Quite clever, really. But you could go and edit some of this and change names and stuff, but basically you would leave that alone. And the only thing that really concerns us practically is the form code, which I can. So probably the best way to access that is by going to the form itself and just double clicking on the design, and this is the code that we're looking at in here when we click our button. What I'd like to do now is to put a list box on. I'll just make enough room for that, and put a list box on my form to hold some data. So I need to go to my toolbox once again and click and go to list box down here and click and drag a list box. Now I need to populate that list box. What I could do is to populate it whenever the form opens. So how do I find the event which occurs when the form opens? Well, before I do that, I might just change the name of the list box just for a change. I'll change that to that, for example. Now I need to go, as I said before, to the form, the event which occurs when the form opens. So at the moment I'm looking at the properties and methods, the properties of the list box, because that's what's being highlighted here. So I'll just click on my form, and then that brings up the form properties, and in particular I'll look at the events here with the lightning bolt. So I'll click on those, and I'm looking for the shown event. So if I just go down a bit here, I can see it here. So I can double click on that, and that very conveniently opens up the shown event. So in other words, whenever the form appears, this event will fire automatically. What I'd like to do is to put some to load up the list box with some text, and quite a bit I've got here, and you'll notice how I've done it using a string and then adding to that particular list box. That's the name of my list box. The way to check that things are going okay is to press a full stop after that, and you'll see the properties and methods come up. So you know I've got it right, that that is indeed the name of the list box that I've got, otherwise that wouldn't appear. Right, now so if I were now to go back to my form and take a look at it, and then if I run the form, so I'll just build it first of all to make sure everything's okay. Build the form, and then eventually I'm going to just make the form appear by running the program, and the very act of running it will make that form appear and set off the event and populate the list box automatically for me. Well, that's really all I want to talk about as far as forms goes. It's very easy for you to go and take a look at all the other controls that you can apply. Have a look at the toolbox and put different option buttons and things like that, check boxes if you want to. As an exercise though, I suggest you try this. What I would like to do is to, when you click on one of these, then automatically for that to appear in a message box. So I'll leave you that as an exercise, so that when you click on one of these, it'll produce the corresponding listing. So try that as an exercise. If you want some clues, then take a look at the bottom of the page on that particular part of the text.